He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state when that light turns red. So don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fith chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fith chapter. That's right, and welcome to the Fith chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian, ready for episode number 90. And Dennis, Lou Williams got traded at the absolute perfect time. He can now snack on some wings this Saturday while watching the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was really happy for Lou, man. He doesn't have to fly across country. He doesn't have to worry about the pandemic. You know, he can just roll in, get all the Lou Williams hot wings that he wants now.
No. Not hot wings. The lemon pepper wings.
Same thing.
Yeah, the lemon pepper wings from Magic City Strip Club. That's his favorite. Of course, if you missed the news, one of the many trades that took place earlier today before the NBA trade deadline at 3 o'clock, Lou Williams traded from the Clippers to the Atlanta Hawks. And of course, Lou Williams, who's already famous, having won multiple Sixth Man of the Year awards in the NBA, became even more famous last year when he broke quarantine while he was out of the bubble for a funeral to go to Magic City Strip Club, one of the most famous strip clubs in the world, and he said he was going there to get some wings. Not some breasts and some thighs, but some wings. And a lot of folks are still skeptical about it, although it's amazing how many people came out afterwards and said, no, really, those wings are that good. It's good enough to go to that strip club just to get the wings.
Well, you know what? 99.9% of us don't run into circles or have the kind of, jack that Lou Williams does. So who knows with multi-millionaires? Like, they're basically like us, except sometimes, they'll just go to a strip club to roll and get some wings.
Yeah, well, and I've actually heard a lot of people around Metro Detroit will go, like I've heard that some of the people that work at the factories in Macomb County will go down to the strip clubs on 8 Mile just to pick up their lunch and then get back on the line by the time their lunch break ends. So I live close to some strip clubs, but I've never been there for any food or really for any other reason except to pick folks up. But definitely want to thank everybody out there for tuning into episode 90.
Pick folks up to drive, not like pick folks up like, picking strippers up.
Oh, yeah. Not like that. Like, hey, give me some STDs.
I go to the strip club to pick the strippers up.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Exactly. Well, I've had some try to pick me up, but we're ready.
You know what? When I went to the strip club back in the day, they all tried to pick me up too.
Yeah. Well, you lived at a strip club.
Well, that was until all my money was gone, and they were like, "Hey, where'd all the strippers go?"
Yeah.
Took all my money. They didn't want to pick me up anymore.
All right, well, definitely want to get you guys ready for 5 more fantastic chapters. Thanks to all who are watching via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and to those who are listening to the podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. For those interested in the podcast, it is available on the day of each show at approximately 11 o'clock. Make sure you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback right down there on either YouTube or Facebook Live. Dennis will be reading your comments throughout the show, and our intern Brian Jelinek will be monitoring and directing some of the conversation in the comments on both Facebook Live and YouTube throughout the show. If you're wondering what we'll be talking about, let's take a look at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, the Final Four will be set next week, and we'll get our first looks at who's going to be competing for the Final Four in the Sweet 16 this weekend. Is Michigan going to make it? Is Sister Jean and company going to make it? Will the other 2 number 1 seeds make it, or will they go the way of Illinois? In the third chapter, an NHL ref made big news because he was just trying to help out the Detroit Red Wings. We'll share with you what he had to say and why that was a fireable offense and what the hockey world was saying about it. In the fourth chapter, will the Lions, the same old Lions, or the Bears be blessed with a better future over the next couple of years. The Bears, of course, coming off of a playoff appearance, the same old Lions in another rebuild. And then in the 5th chapter, we'll bring in our intern, Brian Jelinek, and we've got the major wager to try to win you guys a little bit of money. But Dennis, let's turn the page to the 1st chapter and start with the 1st chapter as usual. And that gets us to the NBA trade deadline. And there was a lot happening before the 3 p.m. deadline. A lot of big deals went down. The Orlando Magic made headlines by completely cleaning house. They basically did what Troy Weaver did, or a diet version of what Troy Weaver did back in November. They shipped out their 3 best players to Boston, Chicago, and Denver. Lou Williams, as we mentioned, has better access to Magic City's lemon pepper wings. The Blazers got Norman Powell. The defending Eastern Conference champions got Victor Oladipo. So somehow, some way, the Rockets got even worse. And we'll get to all those deals and more in just a moment, but we have to start off with the first deal of the day, and that was made by your Detroit Pistons. They sent DeLon Wright to the Kings for Corey Joseph, a 2021 second-round pick, and a 2024 second-round pick. Dennis, what did you make of this first deal of the day, the one involving the Pistons?
Yeah, acquiring picks. I was looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, where Weaver is from. Over the next 7 years, they've got 17 first rounders and 17 second rounders. I mean, that's no lie.
Yeah,
it's an amazing haul of picks. Now we'll see what they end up doing with them and packaging them and everything else. But that's what Troy Weaver's doing here. Get as many picks as possible, throwing enough darts at the board there, see what he comes up with. DeLon Wright, whatever, man. Let's go. Pistons have a surplus of guards, looking, and especially if they're prized rookies able to come back. So, yeah, nice move. I wish they was been able to deal another guy or two.
Yeah, because there were some rumors about Jeremy Grant, although I kind of like keeping him around. There were certainly rumors about Wayne Ellington and Mason Plumlee before the deadline, and they both stayed with Detroit. Real quickly on the Kings, when this deal went down, and then when they made another deal in the afternoon, I was just thinking, what are they doing? Because I get they have a long playoff drought, and I get that it's easier to say that you've made the playoffs because they're allowing 10 teams in, although the number 9 and 10 seeds have to face each other, and the winner of that faces the winner of the loser of the 7-8 game to actually make the 8-team playoff field. But, I mean, if you are the Sacramento Kings, even though you want to get rid of your playoff drought, why are you so desperate to get rid of 3 second-round draft picks? And I know that a lot of these NBA GMs were just using them as filler, but 3 second-round draft picks and bringing in 2 guys who are going to be your number 4 and 5 guards on your team because they're going to be behind Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, and Tyrese Halliburton. Why are you so desperate to get that 10 seed where if you make the 10 seed, right now the 7 seed's the Dallas Mavericks, and you're going to get smoked. Like they're rebuilding too, so I didn't get it from their standpoint. Hey, let's trade for a number 4 guard and a number 5 guard, and DeLon Wright and whoever that dumpy guy was from the Toronto Raptors who was not Kyle Lowry to be backups to De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Tyrese Halliburton to surge us from the 12 seed to the 10 seed, hopefully, where we can hopefully win 2 more games to get in position to get smoked by the Jazz or something in the first round. I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, well, I think the strategy is De'Aaron Fox actually likes Sacramento, but if they have a chance to make the playoffs, even if it is some kind of play-in game, to be nah, we're trading everybody away because we're going to continue tanking. He's going to be I want the hell out of here the first chance that I get. The one thing.
Didn't he just sign a 5-year contract extension?
Well, it doesn't matter. You could still say, look, man, I want out. Get me out of S-Town. This is garbage, man. Mm-hmm. We're going for something. Remember, it's all in theory. It sounds great. Let's just tank the season. Let's always, if we're not a championship or contender, if we're not one of the top 4 seeds, let's just get everybody out of here. Let's lose all the games. For fans, that's fine. And that the coaches, they've got to still go out there and do it. But, the actual players that around the team there, you do have to treat these guys. If you treat them like trash, don't be surprised if these guys are looking to get the first train out of there. And, there's a case to be made that you can get some playoff experience, even if it is in some kind of play-in game, get in there at 8 seed, try to win a game or 2, and then the next year you're trying to, move up the ladder and do that like the Pistons did back in the day. There's nothing wrong with that. But you got to be careful when you're always just like pull the shoot. Let's just keep tanking. Hell with these guys until you're ready to go. Now it's championship, and you want everybody to stand around and be happy. That's not going to happen.
Well, no, and I get that. I just figured if you're the Kings, either stand pat, or if you're going to make a move, make a tangible move, like, maybe trade for Drummond, although that would cost a whole lot, or maybe trade for Aaron Gordon before the Denver Nuggets did. But they traded 3 draft picks for a 4th guard and a 5th guard, and a lot of times a 5th guard doesn't play and a 4th guard might play 10 minutes a game. But, for the Pistons, I did like the deal. I give it an A. They got some filler with the 2 future second-round picks. The part that I really liked about this was they clear up some cap space. And if you look at the contract for DeLon Wright, next year he was set to make, I believe it was $8.5 million, where Corey Joseph was set to make $12.6 million. But only $2.4 million of that is guaranteed, and obviously you have to figure Troy Weaver is going to dump Corey Joseph because he's not a part of the future. So now all of a sudden you've got $6.1 million of additional money to use via free agency. And if you got $6.1 million to use, plus you get yourself a top 3 to 5 pick, and you clear up an extra spot for Killian Hayes to compete with Dennis Smith Jr. and Saban Lee for the starting point guard job for next year. Now all of a sudden perhaps you're making some real momentum. But there's anytime you can clear up space, get some extra picks, and clear up a roster spot for guys that you really want playing, because DeLon Wright was not a part of the future, I think it's an all-around good move for the Pistons.
Yeah, I agree. And elsewhere, I'm a big fan of Norman Powell. Always have been of his game. He lit up the Pistons. Actually, the Pistons beat him the other night when I was watching that one. But what did he have? I think he had 36 at least at one point I was watching that. He's a baller. That's a great move. Now, being able to pick him up and seeing some of the other moves here.
Well, the Blazers, they've got a chance to make some real moves right now, because they're sitting at the 6th seed and they're only 4 back of the 2 seed where Phoenix is. And not only are they getting Powell back, and he's a great 3-point shooter as well, to go with Lillard and McCollum. McCollum came back 2 or 3 games ago, and then Yusuf Nurkic is scheduled to come back tomorrow. So they're getting basically 3 acquisitions for the price of 1 acquisition in a span of 1 week. So they've got a chance to really move up. They're certainly going to pass the Lakers, but they could easily get home court advantage by the time this is all over.
Is Drummond going to the Nets? Is that official? Have we heard that, where he's going to end up?
But at least before the show started, I had not heard about where he was going. I know that the Lakers are one of the teams that was interested in him. And speaking of Drummond, the buyout market is going to be very intriguing, because you got LaMarcus Aldridge, who's favored to go to the Heat. But Drummond, I think he'd be a good fit for the Boston Celtics. He's from Connecticut, so that'd be very close to where he grew up. The Celtics just acquired Evan Fournier, which is basically for free. I think they threw in a couple of second-round picks, and then they used the trade exception. And you match that up with Kemba Walker, with Tatum, with Brown. That's Fournier coming off of the bench. I would assume that could be exactly what the Boston Celtics need to move from 2 games below 500 to competing for the Eastern Conference Championship.
Yeah, the Celtics and Heat, they had to do something. Like, they, were flatlined a little bit. They needed some infusion, so that was good moves for both of them. But the big move, didn't happen today. It was actually the Beard, James Harden, moving in the first week or 2 of the season, or however that played out. And,
yeah.
I scheduled myself to watch the Piston games. Like, I watched them play the Pacers last night. And Tuesday, a nice pick on, picking the Pelicans to wipe out a depleted Lakers squad. But the first time I went and actually looked at a game, and I was like, you know what? I'm watching this game. I'm watching the Brooklyn Nets go to Utah. I'm down. I'm down with watching the big trio here from the Nets. I tune in. They're like, no Kevin Durant, no Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, the late scratch with a neck spasm. I was like, this is the first time. That sucks.
Yeah, well, and they got killed. But you know what? When you think about the impact that he's had on the Brooklyn Nets and coming in to play point guard, he played against the Portland Trailblazers 2 nights ago, because he didn't play last night because it was the second game of a back-to-back. But 2 nights ago, he was questionable. He played, I think he had 17 assists in a game where Kyrie Irving didn't play, in a game where Landry Shamet didn't play. They beat the Portland Trailblazers. You think about how efficient their offense has been, and you think about how bad the Houston Rockets have been. There's a significant case that you can make for Harden being the MVP because of the impact that he's had on 2 franchises.
I was ready to vote for him last night until he didn't play, and then I was like...
Yeah. Well, and one other team that we have to discuss is the Orlando Magic, because they traded away Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, their all-star center, to the Bulls, and I think the Bulls are in really good shape now. They've got a strong 1-2 of Vucevic and Zach LaVine. And then Aaron Gordon, I like what the Nuggets did. I think that basically by adding Gordon and JaVale McGee, they replaced Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee, who went to the Pistons. But they traded away their top 3 players plus Al-Farouq Aminu. And when you look at what they got back, 3 first-round picks, 2 seconds, Porter, Carter, Harris has been hurt most of this year, and Hampton. It's a nice haul, I think. But 2 things come to mind. Number one, how come they weren't better? I get that Gordon has had some injuries and Fournier had some injuries, but these 3 players were coveted by other teams, and they're sitting here with the 4th worst record in the league. And number 2, having gotten rid of their 3 best players, now the Pistons are in serious jeopardy of not having the 3rd worst record in the league. I was looking at the standings. The Timberwolves still have the worst record in the league by 2.5 games. The Pistons and Rockets are tied for the 2nd and 3rd worst records, 2.5 games behind the Magic. And then 2.5 games behind them are the Magic, who just got rid of everybody. So I have to imagine that the Magic are going to keep on falling. The Rockets, having gotten rid of Oladipo, are going to keep on tanking. The Pistons do not want to finish with the 4th worst record, because then they will not be one of the 3 teams with a 14% chance to have the top pick in the draft.
Yeah, it's not just heating up at the top, man. It's heating up at the bottom, man. You have to really get after it if you want that overall number 1 worst record, man. And, the Pistons, I'm watching them at the Pacers, man. They're in a dogfight, 1-possession game late in the 4th quarter. I'm like, oh, man, they could screw around and win this game. But you know what? Then the Pacers put the hammer down and end up winning it going away. But, hey, you have to not bring it every night if you want to be in the race for the worst team in the league.
Yeah, getting rid of DeLon Wright helps. But I think the bigger key for the Pistons, if they really want to tank, is getting Killian Hayes back in the lineup.
Yeah, it's a tough part, or Dwayne Casey wants to take a month off, or I don't know why he would want to do that, but he demands too much out of them, and it's going to be really tough because they've got guys that are they're playing hard, and Grant is a good player, so and different nights, every night, the Kawhi Leonard clone, as James Edwards III was calling him the other night on Twitter. Sadiq Bey, he's going to have his ups and downs, but
he's
I
solid
like
overall.
Isaiah Stewart. I like Isaiah Stewart too. I think he's got a chance.
He's starting to shoot more threes.
Yeah, I mean he can. I'd like to see a huge uptick from him, but I like watching him play. He blocks a lot of shots. He's active. He's got that shot, like you mentioned, is coming around a little bit. Kelser loves him.
Yep.
So does Blaha.
What kind of feedback are we getting?
We are getting a lot of feedback. Now that you ask here, I'm going to have to scroll all the way back to the beginning here. And Paul W., first up, I know he's looking forward to Friday. He says, time for Chapman's eyes to roll. Kyle Pitts with the 7th pick. LOL, what's up? Evening all. Let's see, roll those eyes, Chapman.
Yeah, well, I think he's mentioned that because Dave Burkett in his most recent mock draft had the same old line selecting Kyle Pitts. So, yeah, that would get more than an eye roll if it actually happens.
Paul says he'll be back after the basketball talk. Key says, I like the trade, but really appreciated DeLon's play this season. He played really well. Obviously, we need to pick up tomorrow 2nd-round picks, which we did, as we don't have many heading into the future. Jelinek loves the Oladipo move going to the Heat. He's been really spotty behind the arc. He's averaging 20 a game this year. Solid backup plan for Pat Riley and company.
Well, the thing about the Heat trade is that They didn't really give up much. They have a 2021 first round pick swap, and considering the Houston Rockets are near the top of the draft, I don't think that there's going to be any reason to swap. I don't know if Houston has another pick or Miami has another pick, but Avery Bradley was on the verge of returning, but he really hadn't played at all this year. Kelly Olynyk has been hurt, so they acquired Victor Oladipo for nothing. Essentially, which I think is positive. Obviously, he's had his fair share of injury issues, but if you can get a guy like that for pretty much nothing, and he's a guy who seems to want to stay in Miami long term, you've got yourself a nice tryout and the ability to improve yourself for the playoff run.
All right, that's it. Let's move on.
All right, let's turn the page now to the second chapter.
That gets us to college basketball. We're down to the Sweet 16, and that means you just need 2 wins to get to the Final Four. Chapman, who are your picks to get there?
All right, we'll start off with the West region, and look, I've got Gonzaga winning the whole thing, so I'm going to stick with Gonzaga. I'm not really all that interested in the Gonzaga versus Creighton game. But I am interested in the Pac-12 Sweet 16 game and with the winner of that game facing Gonzaga in the Elite Eight. I like Gonzaga over USC because Gonzaga just has so much talent, but they haven't played a team like USC because there aren't many teams who have played a team like USC with all of that talent on the front court, particularly with the Mobley brothers. I think their size could be a problem, as it has been for teams all year, but I like Suggs, I like Timmer, and I like them to take out the Mobley brothers and get to the Final Four. In the East region, I'm sticking with Florida State to win. I think they will beat Bama. Bama would be my second choice, followed by Michigan and then UCLA. I said before the tournament started that Michigan's ceiling is getting to the Sweet 16, and I'm standing by that. They had great games by Brooks and Brown to get there, and they had some really bad coaching by LSU and a tiny team in LSU. Florida State has a good coach, not a great coach, but a good coach. Florida State won each of its first 2 games by double figures. And they've got a lottery pick in Scotty Barnes. Michigan has not faced, they have faced a borderline lottery pick in the tournament already in Cam Thomas, and he was able to torch them, particularly in the first half. But Florida State has height. They got a 7'1" center who can go toe-to-toe with Hunter Dickinson. They've got a 6'8" starting forward who can draw, and both of those guys can draw fouls, and we know that Hunter Dickinson at times can get into foul trouble. They've got a 6'9" forward off the bench, and their starting guards 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". And when you look at those three, in addition, you got the lottery pick Scotty Barnes, a 6'9" guard coming off the bench. All 4 of those guys tip the scales at over 210, and they're going to be competing against Mike Smith, little guy, and Eli Brooks,
I don't know how
little guy.
Michigan might not even. Maybe they should just send the band. Maybe they shouldn't even show up. Wow. Wow.
I was just saying that's going to be a real challenge for the Wolverines, going up against that kind of height and still not having Isaiah Livers.
Still has the Wolverines as a favorite. I can't believe it.
Yeah, so you should pick Florida State. And then in the other 2 regions, Oral Roberts, their run is done. Arkansas will smoke him, and Baylor looks like they're back, so I like Baylor to get to the Elite Eight and beat Arkansas to get to the Final Four. Midwest, I think, is very intriguing because I could see any one of these 4 teams getting out. I hope it's Houston because I took your bet on them to get to the Final Four, but I'm thinking about putting something on Loyola or Oregon State. I think any one of them could make it. Houston because of their offensive and defensive efficiency. Syracuse because the ACC is used to their 2-3 defense, but nobody else seems to be used to it. And we get tricked by that every year. Like, oh, they were 7-11 in the ACC, and then boom, they win their first 2 or 3 games in the tournament. So is Houston going to be ready for it? I don't know. But I'm gonna go with the wild card. I'm gonna give the edge to Oregon State to continue their Cinderella run and get to the Final Four. They're on fire. They're being overshadowed by Syracuse getting in, by Houston getting in and being the top seed, and of course by Sister Jean. But they ran through that Pac-12 tournament. The Pac-12 has proven to be strong in the NCAA tournament, unlike the Big Ten. They beat Tennessee by 14. They beat Cade Cunningham and company by 10. In this 3 to 4 way toss-up, I got Oregon State coming out of the Midwest.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. They have been spectacular, really. They have caught fire, and I look at the Pac-12. I like USC. I like Oregon. I remember I took them plus 8,100 to win it all. So I think
Yeah.
that they can give. They only played USC once this year. It was after a pause, and they got down big. And the story I read said that they were having a hard time dealing with the length of USC. But man, I love that Oregon team. Watching them and what they can do, experienced team, and I like Oregon. Even though I picked the Zags in Michigan on that side of the bracket to make it to the Final Four. So why would I switch now? But I do like that Oregon team. And on the other side, I had Ohio State and Illinois in the Final Four. So now that that's wrecked and I have to look at it, I think Baylor's got let's say a cakewalk. But I think without Colin Gillespie there for Nova, I think Baylor ought to be able to move on. And then whoever they take out there, the bottom, Arkansas, even though, I've got a soft spot for Arkansas. My niece is a freshman there, and they're all go Hogs. They're all excited down there. I'll be rooting for Arkansas, but I think Baylor is going to be the team there. And you know what? Porter Moser and Sister Jean's team impressed me so much that I know a lot of people hate the Sister Jean talk, but man, I love watching that team. They're the team that I'll be rooting for. And I'm going to pick Loyola Chicago to go to the Final Four. Loyola Chicago, Baylor, Gonzaga, and Michigan. But I don't know, maybe Michigan shouldn't even show up. They got an inside presence. They can shoot the ball. Brandon Johns, he's not Isaiah Livers, but, it's not like he's chopped liver. A guy can stand out there in the corner, fill it up, throwing down a bunch of dunks. And guys have been they've had to foul him. I think he's only scratched the surface the kind of game that he has. I think the Wolverines has just as deep a team as Florida State. And, I think Michigan can get by the Seminoles. They played, I remember, playing Wisconsin, and they had Mike Smith and Brad Davidson 6'5". It's like, man, there's no way, that he'll be able to check Brad Davidson. He was able to stay in there and hang with them a little bit. So
yeah, Wisconsin's a Big Ten team, though. So, I mean, come on.
Well, I think the one thing that I think the absolute key for this matchup, you already mentioned the 7-1 kid from Serbia, Balša Kaparipska. I think that if
impressive.
one thing that we have seen from Dickinson this year, he played a C+ game against LSU. Had some turnovers, some silly fouls that had him going to the bench. Before that, a lot of turnovers and few assists. But during the Big Ten season, man, he had a few games where he had some A+ games. Michigan, to me, it's really coming out. If Hunter Dickinson can dominate, and I think he can, against Florida State, I think Michigan can move on. Plus, they play defense, and
one other thing going for Michigan is that they're probably going to have home court advantage. Of course, Indiana and Michigan are border states. There seem to be a lot of Michigan fans in attendance for their round of 32 matchup, and I can't imagine that folks from a football school hundreds of miles away in Florida are going to be flying up or driving up to Indiana to cheer on their Noles.
Yeah, well, remember, most of the people in the state of Florida don't care about the pandemic or anything, so I don't think that they're going to be scared about flying or anything. So
no, it's just that they're just so far away, and they're a football school. So
maybe.
What kind of feedback?
I don't know if they're a football school anymore. Michigan's a football school too, right?
Well, exactly, in the same manner.
Let's see. We do have a trivia question. Jelinek is put on the live chat, which I like. The trivia question is the 5th chapter trivia question, version 1.0, I should add. What city has hosted the most Final Fours with 9? So think that one over out there. Anybody can answer that question. I'll take a quick stab. We're not going to give the answer until the 5th chapter when Jelinek comes in. The first thing that popped in my head was New Orleans, so that's what I'll say. What about you?
Oh boy, New Orleans is a good one. I don't think they've ever gone to New York or L.A., so it wouldn't be one of those. It seems like it's always New Orleans, Atlanta, or Indianapolis. God, gosh. I'll go with Atlanta. I'll go with Atlanta because they probably want people to have warm weather when they go to the Final Four. So that's going to be my guess.
I remember, what was it, 2012? Was it at Ford Field? I don't remember the exact year.
Oh, no, it was before then. That was the year when North Carolina smoked Michigan
2008?
State.
2008?
It might have been. It was whatever year Tyler Hansbrough was there, and he just that team just. It was the second time that North Carolina had crushed Michigan State at Ford Field. I was at the first game, but I remember that. That was an excellent team.
I loved it, and I had these press seats about 10 feet off of the court. It was down, and the court was up a little bit, elevated, and so my head was directly with the court about 10 feet back when Steph Curry and a Davidson team took on a number one Kansas and came down to a final shot. That was awesome. For the championship game, North Carolina, Michigan State, I was not so close. I was in a suite, and you're like watching the game. It's like, you can like see this little postage stamp, and you see the ball go up, and they had microphones on the rim, and you can hear it clanking, but it wasn't very exciting to watch the game from a suite 100 miles away.
Yeah,
but it was nice having the Tar Heels run them out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from my perspective, I was sitting in basically like the corner of the end zone, and you could see what was going on, but because you're so far away, and because basketball is played in such a confined space as opposed to football, I just realized that unless you've got those closed seats that are right around the court, basketball is not meant to be played in a football stadium. Certainly, if you're a spectator,
you're watching it on the big screen mostly, weren't you?
I was probably splitting my time from looking up at the big screen to like squinting down hundreds of feet away to see what the players are doing. And on top of that, my seats were lower bowl, so I didn't even have the good angle to look down and see everything that was going on. So it was cool to be there, but if you're going to see a Final Four or a game in a football stadium, you better get closed seats, or else I wouldn't recommend it.
Jelinek says 2009, the Final Four was in Detroit. You know what? I shouldn't bash Michigan State on that, because if it was there was ever a time since I've been in high school that I was this close to being a Michigan State fan, it wasn't at Final Four. It was so spectacular downtown. I remember when they were playing in the semifinal down there at the River Walk, the Renaissance River Walk, is that what they call it, behind the Renaissance Center?
Yeah.
The Pussycat Dolls were down on the having a concert, and I was supposed to take the mic after the Pussycat Dolls were done, and then introduce that the Michigan State game was going to be on the big screen. So I was down there thinking, I'm going to be able to meet Nicole Scherzinger, which I was really excited about. But as soon as Scherzinger and the Cats were done, she kind of dropped the mic and got out of there really quick. But
she didn't want to meet you?
No, it didn't happen. Didn't happen. I was a little bit disappointed about that, but it was cool. It was like being at I don't know, you're young, Chapman, but drive-ins back in the day, you probably saw them in the movie. It was like that down there for that Michigan State semifinal, sitting there, and then I actually walked to Ford Field, and it was cool. I stopped at a bar on the way, was watching some of the game, and it was a cool experience. So I was that close to rooting for Michigan State.
Wow. Well, we'll save the tape. All right, Dennis, let's turn the page now to the third chapter, and that takes us to the NHL. That takes us to the Detroit Red Wings, where they were kind of the center of the NHL world. A couple of days ago, referee Tim Peel, who was set to retire at the end of the season, I don't know, guess he was feeling kind of sorry for the Red Wings, and during the game against the Nashville Predators, he decided, you know what, the Red Wings, they're last in their division. They were the worst team in all of pro sports last year. Let me throw him a bone. He tried to help out the Red Wings against the Predators by calling a penalty in the second period. And the Red Wings needed some help at that time because they were down 1-0. And Tim Peel even admitted with a hot mic that he was, I guess, trying to hook up the Red Wings because he got caught on that hot mic. Check out this clip from the game as they were headed to the commercial break.
much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the...
Ooh, let's hear that one more time.
It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the...
Yikes. He wanted to get a penalty against Nashville, and obviously he got that. The NHL, well, they heard that because everybody else heard that who was watching the game in Nashville. And they responded by saying Tim Peel would never referee another game in the NHL. And that seemed like a smart move. But the comments from the hockey community were not what you might expect after Tim Peel was caught on that hot mic. Let's first go to Arpon Basu of The Athletic in Montreal. As you can see, he tweeted out, I personally would have considered mentioning in the statement that the NHL intends to address the issue of makeup calls with the entirety of its officiating crew so that it doesn't exist anymore. Tim Peel just got caught saying out loud what many officials think all the time. Uh-oh. How about this from Damien Cox of the Toronto Star? He tweeted out, Tim Peel is getting canned for doing and saying out loud what every NHL referee does but doesn't say out loud every night. I've been saying for a while that NHL refereeing is in crisis and worse than it's ever been. This shocking development is proof of that. We've got more. A tweet from Jesse Marshall of The Athletic in Pittsburgh. We've known this is how it works for decades. This is merely confirmation of what our eyes already told us. The NHL is the only major sport where the rules are applicable at the official's discretion and things have to be quote-unquote even for the sake of some undisclosed need for fairness. And we've got one more tweet to share with you. It's from Eric Engels of Sportsnet. I would hope Tim Peel's firing is the initial change that sparks a series of them aimed at just getting penalties called. See a penalty, call a penalty. Some real accountability is in order too. This system needs an overhaul. Otherwise, Peel is truly just a scapegoat. I mean, all this talk about a guy who is just trying to help the Red Wings out a little bit. But Dennis, what did you think of Tim Peel's admission of the hot mic and the NHL's response and the response from all of these hockey experts?
Well, I got news for the hockey elite. They think that, hockey's the worst officiated game. Talk to college basketball fans after their team loses. They're all like, these guys suck, they blow. Talk to Michigan fans, when they play Ohio State. These guys are, oh, look, this guy's got golden pants, and look where, this is a joke. And the NFL's like this, left and right, every other game, you get to the playoffs. That's New Orleans Saints fans, what they think about the officials. Like every fan base and every sport, they all say the refs all blow, they all suck, they're the worst that they've ever been. The truth is there are more camera angles and there's more people gambling on the game than ever. So there's a white hot intensity with fandom, and bias creeps in for everybody. And, and we see it right there for those hockey mavens talking about our sport is the worst officiated. Please, they're all, look at replay. Replay sucks in all of them. It's subjective, and you're always pissing off half the fan base, and then you flip a coin to which way it goes. I think that they are correct in hockey. I mean, if you watch hockey for any period of time, after there's a couple penalties, if one team in the first period, goes on the power play for 3 times, you better believe in the second period, if there's anything close to going to be an infraction, you're going to get a shot. They're going to even things up. That's the way they want it. And, should it be that way? No, it shouldn't. A call should be a call. But it is also human nature. I mean, basketball, you have a subjective play. You make the call as an official, but then, whoever the head coach is chewing your ass off, and then you see something like, and it's all, oh, there's the makeup call. We've seen it a million times. There are always the makeup calls. And what it comes down to is it's human nature. If you've ever officiated yourself, and I have at a very minor level, I did some camps for a couple of years, but I know, it was basketball, and I was like, I'm going to make sure that whatever the call is, I'm going to explain to the coach, this is what I saw, when I'd explain it, they don't want to hear what you have to say. But when they're telling you, watch the 3 seconds or when I knew that the player, like it doesn't take very long, even as an official, even when I didn't know the players, like I saw this player coming out, like, wow, man, this player's the best player out there. So when they're going to the hole, I'm over there and one, like it's just, it's a bias, yeah. So
Dennis was fixing games.
Right. I'm sure, like, you should have heard the crowd. This guy sucks. I can hear them all, you blow, official. Okay, you're probably right. I do. I'm trying. But I was trying my best. Let's try that. But the thing is that human nature does creep in there. It's very hard. And, most fans and even most media, like some media, like the columnists, they're saying, like, we're trying not to root for a team. But, go blue. We love I went to Michigan. I'm sitting up there. They all say, I don't care. I just root for the story and everything. And I know I've always heard, Caputo told me in the press box when, Maglio hit the home run, to send the Tigers to the World Series. Everybody was going crazy. But, yeah, you took a look at the press box where all the writers were. They're all just sitting there.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Right. Well, that's what they do. But, bias is there for, a lot of folks. And it's human nature when it comes down to it. I didn't think I was going to spend that much time talking about this, but there it is.
And it was all because he was rooting for the Detroit Red Wings. Look, I think that human nature is a factor, and I think you're right about riding the officials. That's why coaches like to ride the officials, players like to ride the officials, because they know that human nature can creep in and they can get a call the next time. That there's also been, I believe, some studies done that show that home court advantage and the fans riding the officials leads to that as well. Not that the officials will explicitly say, I want the fans to be on my side, but they, when a call goes your way, let's say a block charge call, if it goes your way, the crowd's going to roar. And that they're not cheering for you, but as an official or as a human being, that cheers are better than boos, or cheers are better than, oh, you suck, or, oh, come on. And so I think that it does kind of creep in. But what Tim Peel did was different. Tim Peel didn't just accidentally say to the individual, oh, yeah, I guess it was kind of iffy, but I clearly saw that there was a penalty.
He verbalized it. That's what he did. He got caught.
Yeah,
That's what everybody does, so he just verbalized it.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a human nature mistake to make the call. It was premeditated. He said, I wanted to, let me make sure I get this quote correctly, and I'll keep it PG-13, but I wanted to get a bleeping penalty against Nashville early and then it trails off. So I think a lot of people expect that he was going to finish that sentence by saying, I wanted to get a bleeping penalty against Nashville early in the period, and this penalty took place at the 12:42 mark. So in the first 7 minutes and 18 seconds, he didn't get one. So that level of premeditation where you're for 7 minutes and 18 seconds saying, come on, where can I give Nashville a penalty? Where can I do it? Where, you know what? F this, I have to give them a penalty. That's a lot different than the referee, or not the referees, the crowds riding you, the players are riding you, and the coaches are riding you. I think that this is a big issue because he said it out loud. Because when you say something's out loud, and not just to yourself, he was talking to somebody else, then there's an admission that this is very commonplace. The casual nature with which he admitted it, like, yo, I just looking for an opportunity to give them an effing penalty because I love the Detroit Red Wings. Stevie Y is my favorite player, and I know there wasn't much there, but I had to do it right here. This suggests that he's been doing this for a while, and it suggests that the individual he was talking to has conversations with officials all the time about, yeah, you know, I needed to give this team a penalty at some point, even if there was nothing there. That looks bad for the game.
Well, it's been happening for as long as I've watched hockey. You know that it's coming, and you know what? These officials, it's the worst. In basketball, you see it too. Like, you know, they have something out. They talk too much to the coach, and the coach is talking too much to them. You know, they want to be part of the game. In baseball, you know, how about Angel Hernandez? How many times, you know, he's throwing guys out, or you know, Country Joe West. We shouldn't know any of these guys' names, but you know, these guys
I agree.
These guys want to be involved with the game. And you know what, if you gave all these guys truth serum, you know those baseball guys are like, you know what, yeah, I don't care, Miguel Cabrera, to hell with him, he's always on my ass, that's why I'm throwing him out. You know, because nobody's going to talk to me like that. You know, They don't say that, but that's exactly what's going on. And they do the same thing in basketball. And in basketball, you give some of those guys truth serum, they'll say, yeah, sometimes I make a call up. We want to balance things out. And I also say, guess what? We give the stars in the NBA, they get star treatment. Like, ooh, big secret. Like, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
LeBron James is going to get the call. Guess what? When Justin Verlander, he's going to get a little bit more of the outside black. Greg Maddux before him. Roger Clemens, these guys got the calls. The stars, the superstars, and the known teams. Like when the Cowboys beat the Lions in the playoffs in 2014, and those calls went against the Lions. You know what? The Cowboys, America's team, how that factored in. I know the guy was on the bus with Jerry Jones and everything. But you know what? When you got a downtrodden franchise, you're going to get calls that are going to go against you. That is going to happen.
Yeah.
And the star teams and the star players, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt more. That part is human nature. Like, they try to eliminate it, try to do all those things, but it doesn't matter how long we're sitting here doing this show or how long we all live. It's going to be the same thing. It's all the one thing that you do. You keep thinking that, okay, well, let's try to get people really subjective, but you realize that people don't hear the same things, they don't see the same things. There's gray areas. I watch sometimes like the replay in the NFL. It's like it's supposed to be. What do they always say? The standard is it's supposed to be, beyond the shadow of a doubt, 50 people in the bar, and then you watch it, and it's like so close. It's like, oh, wow, they're not going to be able to run. Then they overturn it almost every time. Well, irrefutable video evidence.
Yeah, that's the term. I think that the issue that these hockey experts are bringing up when they talk about how this is the norm and this has been going on and they have to change things is that when you look at what Tim Peel did, this wasn't human nature. This is a premeditated attack on the Nashville Predators. This was fandom. This is like if you're sitting in a bar with a big slappy and they just want every single call to go their way. Tim Peel is like trying to tip the scales. It was almost like Tim Donaghy, the famous former NBA official who was gambling on games and was making calls based on that. That's the kind of sense that I got. And these hockey experts were trying to make the point that this was so egregious that this was not something that can be excused by human nature. When we're talking about working the referees and we're talking about some of those other things, that's human nature. But by saying I wanted to get a bleeping call on Nashville by you assume early in the period, and this is my opportunity to do so, even though there wasn't much there, that's not human nature. And that's why I think that these experts are perhaps onto something when they say that hockey has to change, because they watch a heck of a lot more of it than me and probably even more than you, and they're saying that this is the norm and it's got to stop.
Well, I don't think it's human nature for what this Peel did.
Exactly.
But that night in and night out it happens, and those refs, if there's 3 or 4 calls that go against the team, that you almost are, you're just guaranteed that you're going to have a call go against you. It's just like back in the day with the playoffs. They say, this year we're going to call it differently. And then it's like, okay, as soon as the first playoff goes, everybody was tackling each other. They did. It took like 20 years from them pleading every year, like, no, we're going to call it the same way we did in the regular season, we did in the postseason. For 20 years, they didn't do it. Then finally they started calling it. Everybody was like, this is BS. This isn't playoff hockey. Mm-hmm. But they call it way differently now. They'll call penalties in the playoffs. So.
Hey, before we get to the feedback, one other thing I wanted to mention that I think gets on the nerves of a lot of basketball fans is the referee that blows the whistle after he sees or she sees that the shot is not made. It's a shooting foul, and you figure it's either a shooting foul or it's not a shooting foul, and the referee could not have been jumbling around with the whistle in his hand and dropped it, and that's why it took so long. But the shot goes up. Is there contact? Is there not contact? Who knows? If it goes in, nothing happens. But once it bounces twice and then it is rebounded, tweet! Foul. And everybody's looking around like, what? And the guy who shot the ball is like, oh, yeah, he hacked me so hard. But it took so long. It's either a foul and you whistle it immediately before the ball even touches the rim, or it's not.
Well, I'll take you through the process there as an official back in the day. Is like, you don't want to blow the whistle to you, like you want some flow of the game. So sometimes, and like I get it, when you're playing basketball and you shoot and you miss and you're like foul, everybody's like, that's late. It's true. It is late. It's the same thing when you're officiating. You go up and you see some contact, but it goes in. Sometimes you're just like, well, let's go. Not calling it. But when you see that it's missed, then it's like, oh, there was some contact. So you're letting it all soak in for a second, but everybody's like late, and then you blow the whistle. So that's the process there.
Okay.
Take it from me, who officiated 2-3 years of high school women's high school girls basketball camp.
Ooh,
All right,
okay. Camp.
summer camp.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say MHSAA games, but no, this is just summer camp from
camp.
bored teenage girls.
Summer camp, JV. Sometimes there's some varsity teams in there. I tell you, man, you get some competitive teams going back and forth, and you think you're gonna have a partner, and sometimes you didn't. And by the ninth game, man, you got feet are sore, and you got the crowd yelling at you, man.
Final score is 10-8.
I'm just like, keep the clock running. Let's go. All right. I'm giving those and ones all the time. Let's see. Beth on Facebook says Jim Joyce is a great umpire. Now, that seems sarcastic, Beth. Like Jim Joyce, who called.
Beth hates Armando Galarraga.
Yeah, well, maybe she thought there was the right call there. That was the impetus for replaying baseball, though.
Oh, right? You know what? When you want to talk about bias, one thing that I found out a couple of days afterwards is that, of course, that game was between the Tigers and the Indians. Jim Joyce grew up in Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I don't want that Michigan team to have a perfect game. You know what? It wasn't a bang-bang play. It was a bang-bang play. Safe. Oh, yeah. Got there too late. Sorry, Galarraga. That's one thing I thought.
Jelinek likes Angel Hernandez. It's nothing but sarcasm here. Beth said she is joking. So there you go. Do you think a NFL draft will happen in Detroit? That's a question from Paul W. coming in on the live chat.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume that the best opportunity to do something like that is shortly after a stadium is built, and the Lions got the Super Bowl, and it's been 15 years or something since they had the Super Bowl. So no, probably not.
No, I think that they. I don't think it necessarily is going to come down to stadium amenities. I do think the NFL, look, the Lions, from an NFL standpoint, they're a great franchise. Like, they're a complete doormat. And, once in a while, you got to throw them a bone, they've got the Thanksgiving Day game, but every 10 years ago, do something. So, this franchise who never says anything about, they just lose all their games and, continue to be a good member. And, they don't really receive any acclaim. Once in a while, you do have to give something. And for Rod Wood, this would be a gigantic win, Well, Rod Wood, he has mentioned it a few times, and he's going after it. He would love to see it. And you know what? Depending, it's a coin toss on how the weather would be. You get some great weather. It would it was in Nashville 2 years ago.
They had it in Philly a couple years ago.
Where?
In Philly.
Did they? I remember the one in Nashville. I mean, it was a great setting. You could see back for a mile. And
they did it on the steps with where Rocky was. Remember?
You know what? I don't remember that. Oh. But I do remember the Nashville one, and it was awesome. It would be great right there on Broad Street and everything. But Rod Wood, that the Lions ever going to play in a Super Bowl. So bidding on a Super Bowl. And the one thing, what do we all say that that are Lion fans about the draft? It's their Super Bowl.
It's their Super Bowl. That's correct.
So we could get a Lions Super Bowl here. It would be the draft. So I think, and that's something that Wood is really pushing for, and I think he could get it done.
Hey, you got more faith in Wood than I do. I think we both agree with that.
There it is. Jelinek doesn't think so.
Before we go to the fourth chapter, I did put up a Twitter poll regarding Tim Peel, because you could certainly make the argument that, hey, he's just feeling sorry for the Detroit Red Wings. They were down 1-0. They've had some really tough times happen to them. Was Tim Peel, and here's the question, was he just trying to help the Red Wings out? And 55.6% think that that's a fair point, and Peel loves the Red Wings, and 44.4% so far say that's not a fair point and that Tim Peel is just corrupt. So there's still some time, 14 hours left to vote on this. Do you think that Tim Peel is corrupt, or is he just trying to hook the Red Wings up?
Well, you know what? If he's going to be corrupt, instead of just throwing him an odd penalty, it would be great if he could get in there and fix the lottery for the Red Wings to win it or something. I'd be all for that.
Yeah, I don't know if officials have that much power. All right.
I don't think Peel's going to be anywhere where Peel's like, hey, I'll volunteer to, pick the ping pong balls for the lottery.
Yeah.
Hey, Red Wings win it!
Shocker. And the second pick and the third pick.
That's not happening. All right, you ready for the fourth chapter?
Let's turn that page.
Well, speaking of the Lions, which we just were, they have Jared Goff as their quarterback, and the Bears on Twitter today put a picture of their new quarterback. It said QB1. There was a picture of the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. So now, Chap, I want to ask you and everybody out there that's watching, you look at the roster, you've just heard about the QBs that are going to be there for next year, coaches, front office. Who do you have more confidence in, this organization-wise, the Chicago Bears or the Detroit Lions?
And just for reference, here is the tweet that you were talking about. QB1.
Dalton.
Andy Dalton. Yeah. I mean, he apparently he's already been on the field because he's wearing that jersey. He must have already played for them, but probably just a great job of Photoshop. When I compare the same old Lions to the Chicago Bears, I think it's easy and it's obvious to say that the Bears have the advantage because the Bears are always in a better situation than the Lions. The Lions are in one of the worst situations in the league year after year. The Lions are always rebuilding, and there's no reason to stray away from that right now. You look at who's got the better coaching staff, and I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears, a team that has, with the coaching staff, has already won the division and made the playoffs last year. Who's got the better coach? I'm going to give that to the recent the better quarterback. I'm going to give that to the recent two-time Pro Bowler Jared Goff and the Lions. Front office, Bears. They just made the playoffs. Wide receiver, Bears. They've got Allen Robinson back under the franchise tag, and the Lions have one of the worst wide receiving groups in the league. Running back, Bears. They got David Montgomery, who's going into his third season and is coming off of a 1,000-yard season. Meanwhile, the Lions, I see you shaking your hand and waving it like, oh, it's not that great. But the Lions...
I'll take Swift over Montgomery.
Oh, what did he have, like 500 yards rushing last year? He's injured all the time because he's a second-round pick with the Lions. Okay, go ahead and hitch your wagon to the Swift train. I'll take his father. Offensive line, I'll go with the Detroit Lions. But all three levels of the defense, I'm going with the Bears. Matt Prater's gone, so I don't know who the Bears kicker is. I'm going with him. And playoff experience, the Bears were just in the playoffs. They didn't play very well, but they got there. So Bears. Bears almost across the board are in a better situation now and in the future.
Yeah, even though Ryan Pace selected Mitchell Trubisky, which I know Bears fans, and when they could have had Deshaun Watson.
And traded up to get him.
Or Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So he has to live with that and, get in the Red Rifle when they were trying to, make a deal for Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, pre-allegations and all this stuff. So they had to go with Andy Dalton. The one thing about him, I don't know if they're going to be able to move up and get any of these QBs, but when you got the Red Rifle sitting there, this smells an awful lot like, the Bears are going to try to do something to find the Dalton's going to be a bridge quarterback, and they'll be drafted a quarterback in the first round. Yeah, because of the defense, because of the recent success, and because of just the unknown factor with the Lions, as much as I would like to say, yeah, you know what, the Lions. I can't say the Lions. I think, the owners, before this, Virginia McCaskey Hallis, like her and Martha Ford, each of them ready to, hit 100 years old in a year or two. That was a wash. But,
who's older? I don't know. Wash.
I don't know. They're Martha's almost 100, and so is Virginia McCaskey. So congratulations. Hey, yeah, it's pretty sweet. So like Sister Jean's got them both covered.
Yeah, exactly. It's a race. Who's going to get there first? The two of them or the Queen of England?
Good point. Let's see. Is Cody Parkey still with Chicago? Was he the double doinker?
I'm not sure.
from the
Did
playoff
they
game.
did they bring Robbie Gold back?
No. I forget who the kicker was last year. And let's see, somebody just BP says I would rather be a Bears fan. They build a defense.
Yeah,
That wasn't really the question, but it kind of is. Like, yeah, their defense, the Bears' defense is still pretty good.
Yeah,
So.
they had a bad quarterback last year. I think that Trubisky and Foles combined for 26 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. And because they had a solid defense that ranked 11th in total defense for the year, they were able to translate that into a 7 seed and get to the playoffs. This year, I think that they're going to be in a similar position where they'll be a borderline playoff team. I think they'll be there for the next couple of years. And if you're a borderline playoff team, then you're better than the same old Lions.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Lions fan looking at this and saying, you're Chapman, you're a hater and everything else, Fithy and you too, and you'd say, the one thing about it, if the Lions just 2 years ago won the division and lost a chance to win a game on a field goal at the end that bounced off the upright and the crossbar, it would be, talking about maybe we should, put a statue up, for the general manager. The long wait is over.
GM Bob Quinn.
The playoff win. Let's go, man. People would still be, giving them a free pass. So that's the part. That's too bad. And BP says, I hope the new regime in Detroit changes. Defense needs to get better. They should draft a linebacker.
Well, what did you think? I was just going to say, what did you think earlier this week about the Detroit Lions quarterback news where they restructured Jared Goff's contract? They shifted $15 million of his contract for this year to the next 3 years, equal parts $5 million to clear up some space for this year. What did you think of that?
Well, you know what? As I've been saying all along, I want this team to take the long view, and that meant, don't mess with 2023. Don't be parking. Don't be doing any what they call those vacant years, the voidable years, so you can kick the can down the road. Even though the contract's going up, I was hoping this team was going to bite the bullet this year, even if it meant that they had to take just a bunch of non-drafted free agents. But they went over there and freed up some money here, so they get the linebacker from the Saints and
Alex
a couple
Anzalone.
other guys. Yeah, he was a good player. I was hoping they're going to go to the direction of just go straight up undrafted free agents and really bite the bullet. And not that you're saying that they're going to be a tanking team, but it was the long view. But they couldn't completely do it. They had to take some of this money, and I still think that there's possibility that they could take a quarterback and everything. But I wanted them to just do nothing but get picks and work that cap for 2023, but they're stealing a little bit from that to try to put some semblance of the team. In their defense, you do have to sell a little bit to the fans, and you do have to give
They're
a little
Lion
bit.
slappies.
Not all of them. If this team got out, they're getting murdered. 50-0 in the first couple games, and every game looked like the Bucks game last year. It'd be like, wow, man, this thing, it's just going just as planned. So you got to give them a little bit of a chance there. But I was hoping that they were gonna, stay away from 2023. But
it was a bad
they can't
move.
help themselves.
This is
that was a long answer to say I agree with you.
Yeah, it was something that I brought up a week or two ago about how I was hoping for the Lions' sake that they would renegotiate his contract and shift more money toward the first year so that they would have more money to deal with in 2022, 23, 24. And instead they did the exact opposite. So an SOL dumb move. Hey, let's give ourselves a more competitive team this year so we can have a less competitive team in the future. And I mean, at best case scenario, they give just about all of Jared Goff his money this year, although they can't do that $134 million contract. But if they had restructured $5 million from each of the next 3 years and moved it to this year, so he's making $15 million more, and they just got a whole bunch of undrafted free agent and practice squad players, that would have been a much better scenario. Same old Lions.
Can't argue with you. Let's do some gambling, get a trivia answer, and talk to Jelinek.
All right, let's bring in our intern Brian Jelinek, who joins us here on the fifth chapter. What's going on, Brian? And what did you think of our first 4 chapters?
I'm shocked about the NHL officiating. I didn't think it was in a crisis, as you guys put it from Twitter and all that. Did you guys think that as well, or no?
Well, I think that the NHL officiating by hockey fans, like the one thing about hockey fans is they, for the most part, like they're obsessed with. They say, "Hey, what are your 4 favorite sports?" Hockey, 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 and hockey. I mean, they're just so obsessed with the game, and so like my friends that are hockey fans, that's all they talk about is the officiating and how much it sucks and how it's the worst ever. But you know what? Football fans think the same thing, and so do basketball fans.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that all of them feel like it's at a crisis point.
I mean, I've always thought that hockey was the most consistent out of all 4 of the major sports. I mean, basketball, I think, is low. Football, you never know. Baseball just depends on the umpire. But I always thought hockey was pretty consistent.
Well, I know. Watching some Red Wings games, Mickey Redmond is complaining constantly about the referees, and obviously being a big Red Wings slappy, thinking that all the calls are going against the Red Wings. But I kind of got the belief that, just from listening to other hockey fans, that they felt that hockey was worse than other sports. But I mean, this what Tim Peel did kind of goes up there with what Tim Donaghy did, which was fixing games. When you like we were saying, it's not just about human nature, and he looked at the replay and said, yeah, I guess maybe it could have gone either way. This is a premeditated strike. He was thinking about this for multiple minutes. When am I going to call a stupid penalty on the Nashville Predators to help out my Red Wings?
Yeah, and my cynical self, I immediately went to you guys were thinking, oh my God, he's gambling on the game. So that was my first thought.
Mm-hmm. Don't bet on the Red Wings. That would be my advice to him, even if you're one of the officials.
I barely know how to bet on hockey to begin with, so that we're clear with that.
We have 2 questions on the feedback, and you can answer one of them because it's about your trivia question. And PB is answering New Orleans. Paul W. says, how good is the wide receiver Damian Ratley? And if you didn't know, the Lions signed the wide receiver to go with who are the couple other guys they got?
Tyrell Williams.
Rashard Perriman, who I like. Brett Perriman's kid. I think he's got a shot. But this kid coming from the Browns, I wouldn't expect anything from him. I would.
I'm not going to expect anything from the offense this year.
I bet he got cut from the practice squad.
From this guy in particular, like I haven't seen anything from him since he's been in the league. I've never heard of him, so like if he does anything, it'll be a good job by Brad Holmes. So I don't expect much.
Yeah. Do you guys
what was your trivia question?
What city has hosted the most Final Fours and their number is 9? Do you guys want to lock in your answers?
I'm locking in Atlanta.
Atlanta?
In New Orleans.
All right, you guys are both wrong. Actually, the winner is Kansas City.
What?
Yeah, can you believe it?
No.
Yeah, I got the list I'm looking at is Kansas City, New York, Indy, Louisville, and New Orleans.
Well, the one thing that we have to remember is I don't know when they started playing in domes, but prior to that, they were working it around a little bit. Kansas City, huh?
Yeah.
Central.
Yeah, I got Kansas City, guys.
All right. That was a good trivia question. I
think New Orleans is up next or in the next couple of years. I think, like 2023 maybe. I'm not totally sure.
Good stuff. What else you got there?
Just watch the WGC Dell match play this weekend. It's gonna be some good golf. Patrick Cantley's playing really well. It's going to be a really fun weekend for that. Love a little good bracket in golf.
I'll tell you this.
Does it matter? Oh, go ahead, Chap.
When I'm taking a break from watching college basketball, it'll be Saturday night when I watch UFC 260 and Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic too.
I don't even know who those people are.
I will watch college hockey tomorrow at 4:00. Michigan's playing Minnesota Duluth, so I'll be all about that.
Paul W. will love that.
I wanted to ask you. Oh, yes, he will. You're right in on that. I wanted to ask you, like, this match play and anything else, because coming up, we've got the Masters. Does it matter? Have you seen in the past how guys play here? I'm always looking at how guys play in the previous tournament. It doesn't, usually dictate any kind of success, like, picking a guy that won the previous tournament. But what do you think?
I think it matters. I mean, it's Augusta's a totally different brand of golf than what they're playing down in Dallas, so you never really know. But it's nice, like I said with Patrick Cantlay, it's nice seeing guys who are good for regular tournaments who never really show up a lot in the majors to see them playing well before going into it. So if Patrick Cantlay wins this thing or goes really far, look for him when you're making your Masters bets.
I usually look for the Masters, fairways and regulation. That's what I'm looking at, 'cause you want to stay out of the...
I can't bet on golf. For them to say, all right, who's going to win this tournament? Oh, it's plus 2,000 on this guy, but there's 2,000 contestants. I can't do it.
The Masters is the smallest field.
Okay, well, there's 1,000 contestants. That's still a heck of a lot. And by the way, you were just mentioning never bet on the Red Wings. I just got an update on my phone in the first period with 3:50 to go.
4-0.
Yeah, 4-0 Predators. So obviously, where's Tim Peel? Tim Peel needs to come back and call some more bleeping penalties on the Predators because the Red Wings need them.
Can I get a breakdown? Can I get a breakdown on the power plays?
One more thing before I sign off. I looked at an Athletic article from January 2020 about the worst referees in the NHL. Tim Peel was ranked on there, 12% of the vote for worst ref in the league.
Yeah, so. I saw some coverage over the last couple of days about how folks thought that he was one of the worst in the NHL, and now we know why, because he's rigging the games for the Wings.
I don't know. Kerry Frazier would be on that list. For me, these are guys from back in the day, that I would go through, probably a handful of other ones that I could come up with if I sat here for a minute, but Frazier's the one that comes to mind immediately. All right, Jelinek, great job. And one of these days we'll have to discuss how you shed the intern label to see.
All right. Okay. Ooh. All right, gentlemen. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks, Jelinek. Now let's turn the page to the fifth chapter, and that gets us to the major wager, where we try to win you guys a little bit of money. Of course, sports betting is legal in Michigan, not just in person, but it's also legal if you bet mobile. If you got one of your phones, if you got your phone, you can download some of these apps. And I'll share with you in just a moment how you can get some free sports betting money via DraftKings if you are new to sports betting and have not downloaded the app yet. But first, Dennis, remind everybody out there what you were looking at on Tuesday and what you're thinking about for either tonight or this weekend.
Well, I got some futures going. I got Houston in the Final Four plus 400. I've got Oregon winning it all. I got them at plus 3,100 for that. So if the Ducks win it all, they've got a tall task in front of them, just taking on USC and then Gonzaga. But hey, if they can win 4 games, I like that one. I want to congratulate you. That was a nice pick on the Pelicans. That seemed like easy money after watching that game. I'm looking to what region is this? I have to my glasses here. The South region in Indianapolis. I like Baylor minus 7.5 over Nova. Nova wasn't playing a murderer's row in Winthrop and North Texas, and they don't have Colin Gillespie. I think this is where the Wildcats run ends here. I think the Bears will take them down. I'll lay the 7.5.
Laying 7.5 points. All right. As you mentioned on Tuesday, I selected the New Orleans Pelicans because no LeBron James, no Anthony Davis, no chance. And if you're thinking about a game to bet on late tonight, the Lakers are playing. Let me see they're 5.5 point underdogs to the Philadelphia 76ers. That seems like a pretty small number, and I would recommend betting on that. But that was not my major wager. I don't do a heck of a lot of betting on hockey, but I decided to go to the ice tonight, and this one seemed like it was a pretty easy bet for me. I went with the Penguins minus 1.5 goals against the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres have lost 15 games in a row. 12 of those games have been by at least 2 goals. The Buffalo Sabres essentially right now are the Houston Rockets of the NHL. Take the Penguins minus 1.5 goals at 130. That's what I did, or minus 130. And I can tell you that right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins in the second period have a 2-goal lead, 2-0 on the Buffalo Sabres. And if you're wondering how you can bet and how you can get some free money, as you can see right there on the side, instructions, click on the link in the comments section, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. You can register and download the DraftKings app by clicking on that link, and depending on how much you deposit, you can get yourself some free sports betting money. But Dennis, it seems like right now two of the surest bets are on the Buffalo Sabres to lose and or not cover, and the Houston Rockets to lose and or not cover.
Tell you what, if I would have known that the Wings were coming back to play the Predators after all the Peel stuff, Nashville would look a little tasty morsel there to throw somebody down. All right, coming up on Tuesday's show, I'll remind everybody to keep an eye on some game times and show times for this particular show, because we're usually on at 7:30. But after Michigan beats Florida State, if they're lining up against Alabama, keep an eye on the show times. We'll see who's going to the Final Four. We'll talk all about that coming up on Tuesday's Fifth Chapter. Thanks to Brian Jelinek. And for Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fithian. Everybody have a great night. Goodbye.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast, or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter. Huh.